Joel,
Yes, Ray.
we've seen material stolen, we've seen time stolen, but we're going to talk about when clients steal your staff.
What? That would never happen in this industry ever.
Love that person. Pick them up right now. How do we frame this for the cleaning company owner? They're working hard to build their team, and this is probably the last thing they think about.
Particularly when you're a startup company. And I can remember the early days of what I've done. I know stories from other companies I've worked with. Even the very first large company I worked with, the client ended up deciding we are going to get rid of the company that's doing the work and we're going to hire the employees direct. And that obviously causes all kinds of issues with everything. One of the things that you need to do as a building service contractor, and so many startup companies start out this way, is that they either just verbally give a price. I've seen companies and I've seen quotes come into clients that I work with that literally are written on a napkin or a piece of paper. Oh, this much weekly, this much monthly, whatever.
What is cleaning? We're going to clean your space. What does that mean? We have an entire episode just on that.
Yes, we do. What you have to work into your contract, you have to have a whole section that talks about what is it going to be if they hire your employee. They do it in the staffing industries. Take somebody from a recruitment company and you bring them on as a temp and then you hire them. There's always a cost to that.
Sure. Effectively, it's an HR sourcing fee at that point.
Correct. So you end up having to, even though you're a cleaning company, you have to protect yourself like you're a staffing company. So not only do you have to figure out the cost of that individual that you're losing, but all of the other costs they factor in. One of the things that I have in my contracts is not just a percentage of that person's yearly wages, but I also have tied into it all of the onboarding costs that we have, the background checks, the drug checks, all of the training that they have gone through, whether it's the bloodborne pathogen, whether it's cleaning certifications that they take, any of the New York State mandated things, because I'm in New York State. So we include all of those costs and we lay it right out and say, this is what it would cost if you hire one of our employees. Now, they can always say, oh, we didn't. Well, we're not stupid. When that person resigns from us, we lose the account, and then we go and find out that they're still working there. It makes it pretty easy to realize that they hired our employee.
Sure.
And that their start date coincides with the last day of working for our company.
My question there, Joel, is what is your recourse? You've lost the client. It's not like you're trying to crap all over the business community, but you are trying to hold someone accountable for an agreement that they signed. And you're not trying to ruin the future employment of a former employee. But the real responsibility is on your former customer, now their employer. What do you do with that?
It's a very slippery slope. Where I've seen this happen with my own company over the course of time was when we had clients that were multiple locations, where one client signed the original agreement and then there was just an add-on to the contract to include these other locations, and all of the individuals that worked at those locations didn't know with the original contract. It was just serviced under a master contract.
Okay.
So the said contact in location B didn't know that that clause happened, and they would talk to them. Plus, we have a culture in our company that we say that you work for us, not the client. We pay your pay, not the client. If the client approaches you to hire you, please let us know. So not every one of our employees would tell us, because obviously they're trying to leverage their relationship with the person that they've worked closely with at that location to maybe get more money. But having it and having it reviewed by your business attorney is critical, because you want the wording to be 100% right and be in your favor. And when other companies then have like a master contract that they have, a service contract they want you to sign, you have to make sure that all the addendums that include your own proposal are included in it, because a lot of them just put in your price and the scope of work and they cut out everything else. And it's like, no. I need to have all of this in your master contract as an addendum, so you don't sign anything and just start it without making sure that you're covering your rear end.
Sure. So let's back this up as we talk to your customer, that new owner. First things first, being very clear on your employment agreement with your staff, having a well-documented, attorney-reviewed service contract, which is probably standard for every account.
Should be standard. So many up-and-coming companies don't, because of the cost.
Yeah.
And really, you are going to save yourself money by spending that $250 to $500 for the attorney to review it and say, okay, here's your standard boilerplate. You can change these areas. The rest is fine.
I'm going to make a shameless plug for your business attorney because she's my business attorney too.
Trisha Cifuentes?
That's the one. She's amazing, and she produces exceptional contracts and service agreements, and then clear review with your customer, especially if there are multiple locations that may daisy chain off of an individual contract.
And when we had a situation happen to us, location B or C or D, insert whoever, tried to hire our employee, I went back and I talked to the original contact and said, I want you to be aware that this is going on. And if this is what's going to happen, this situation is not going to work for either of us. He was oblivious, didn't know that that was happening. So when I called him, he says, don't you worry, you will get several emails apologizing for their conduct. And I will send them that part of the contract and say, do you really want to do this? So, having that good relationship also helps eliminate those issues when you have a very open and honest and transparent relationship with your clients. And I know so many business owners out there, there's been a big change in how businesses work with their clients, where they do try to be more transparent now than years before. And that is key, because when people want you to be successful, they want you to make money because they need you. And when they are pilfering from you, you can't survive.
Right.
Because your startup costs of bringing an employee on is astronomical, between interviewing and all the things that you have to do, the uniforms, everything that you do on the front end for an employee. Plus, we know how hard it is to find a new client. Not just losing an employee, but you lose that client and now you got to go find another client. So those costs just keep adding up, and that can put a company under very quickly.
As we bring this part to a close, those owners who think that I can't afford an attorney right now, other than reaching out to you to hopefully change their mind because they are about to hurt themselves, what else would you tell them?
Make sure that you actually have a written contract, that you do have it reviewed by an attorney, and that you don't let clients write that out, because it's in your best interest. You don't want to have to keep reinventing the wheel with finding new employees, finding new customers, and trying to build relationships that are important to the success of your company.
Great advice, Joel. Thank you.
You're welcome.